was I talking about before? Oh yeah, with like, I get interested in like the internal mechanisms of games a lot, like the method by which dungeons are generated in a game like this, or the way that the engine works, or I get hung up on little quirks like that because, like I said, I grew up in the '90s, and I started out on DOS games that. It's remarkable what they managed to pull together with such limited resources. Whereas nowadays, we have so much computing power, we don't know what the hell to do with it. And so we end up pouring just millions of dollars into these fancy rendering engines. And to a certain extent, I feel like the gaming industry lost their way for a little while, because it was like, people, they want to see the best graphics and whatnot, and all the, we need to get all these Hollywood actors in to play 5-minute roles and get killed off immediately by some anonymous fucker with a big mask on. Not salty about the opening of Oblivion at all, by the way. It's just like, gaming is fine on its own. We did perfectly fine without all this fancy worrying about graphics and shit like that. Even the Bit Wars, the famous Nintendo versus Sega rivalry in the 90s, was ultimately totally pointless. Although the competition did bring about some of the best games of a lot of people's childhoods, which unfortunately I was not able to share in because we didn't have a video game console until the Nintendo 64 came out. I mean, I did play some games. I had a neighbor with an SNES, and I messed around a little bit, but it wasn't really until the days of the Nintendo 64 and 3D gaming and Banjo-Kazooie that I really got into gaming. Before that, it was, like I said, DOS games. And DOS games can be really cool, but not when you're 3 years old. Anyone remember Rita Rabbit? Or Spy Fox? I think my favorite was Freddy Fish, because that was the only game we had that came with an actual level editor. I just realized I've been recording for about 20 minutes and I've barely talked about Arena at all. But, like I said, I just wanted to boot this up and, relax a little bit, just kind of chill out. I was getting really invested in my Daggerfall Let's Play. And Daggerfall, it's my favorite game of all time, but it can be damn frustrating sometimes. Like I said, it's like a single player... Why can't I get out of the water? Come on, man! Thank you, Jesus Christ. But yeah, like I said, it can be like a single player game of Dungeons & Dragons. And that comes with all kinds of weird quirks. It can be an incredibly irritating game to play sometimes. Especially if you don't know, like, what classes are ideal. Like, if you play as a healer, I've heard people say that healers are the easiest class to play. I have no idea what the hell they're talking about. It is so irritating, having to play as a class that has basically no weapon skills. Even burglars are easier to play than healers, because at least burglars, they're relatively quick. They can escape. They have skills related to evasion and stuff like that. But healers have to rely on a magic pool, which doesn't recover naturally. Like, magic didn't regenerate without resting until Oblivion. A lot of people don't know that. And speaking of things that people don't know, I tell people, like, people ask me sometimes, oh, you're a gamer? What's your favorite computer game? Daggerfall. Really? What's Daggerfall? It's the second game in the Elder Scrolls series. And then some people are like, huh? And I'm like, Skyrim, right? Yeah? Daggerfall was the second game in that series. Skyrim as a sequel? No, it's just so frustrating. But, I get it. Skyrim was the one that hit it big, It was amazing, when they announced Skyrim and, the release date was set to 11/11/11, November 11th, 2011, everybody got out of their way. It was amazing, because, like, the Elder Scrolls series was relatively big with Morrowind and Oblivion, but it wasn't big enough for EA to get out of the way. EA stepped aside on November 11th, 2011 for Skyrim. That never happens. The only people who had the balls to try to stand up to Skyrim's release schedule were, like, independent developers who didn't quite know what the hell was going on, or people who were just, like, incredibly overconfident. Skyrim, everybody knew that it was going to be big. And ironically, I was the only person in my group of friends who was really annoyed, because I was like, why are our dragons just randomly spawning enemies in this game? Because, like, from the very beginning, one of the things that set the Elder Scrolls series apart was its refusal to bow down to cliches, to a certain extent. I mean, you know, elves are still fairly cliched to a certain extent, but even then, you know, there's a fair amount of diversity among elves, but they specifically made dragons extinct, and then in Skyrim it's like, oh, they're back now. You know, you can just randomly encounter them in the overworld. And I got super pissed. Now, granted, when Skyrim did end up coming out, and I did end up playing it, I really liked it, but I'm still kind of annoyed about that, you know? I feel like Skyrim feels more generic than the previous games. And, you know, again, Skyrim is relatively simplistic compared to some of the other games. Even compared to Arena, it's fairly simplistic in a lot of ways. But it has other strengths, you know? I like Skyrim almost as much as I like Daggerfall, but for different reasons. And I don't know. Ever since Fallout 76 came out, there's been a lot of concerns that The Elder Scrolls 6 is going to turn out to be really, really bad. And, you know, I don't want to think about that, because, you know, this series is basically my childhood. I started playing Morrowind when I was 12 years old. I played the Xbox version originally, but we got the PC because we borrowed it from a cousin of mine. When I decided that I had to keep playing it, my parents bought it for me for the PC, and it turned out it didn't run on my PC. And so they took me to Staples, and a very kind teenage gentleman, who apparently knew a thing or two about Morrowind, specifically recommended a computer... Oh wait, I don't need to heal. What the fuck am I doing? Specifically recommended a computer for running Morrowind, and my parents bought me a new computer just to play Morrowind. And I really appreciate that, because, you know, they didn't have to do that. My parents could have just been like, oh, well, you know, kids are entitled these days, they want to play video games, and blah, blah, blah. But instead they were just like, you know what, let's give him his video games, let's humor him, let's see what happens from this. And apparently what happened was that I would get a few 100,000 views on you. What the fuck happened there? Early 90s physics platforming, ladies and gentlemen. I would get a few thousand views on YouTube and become inspired to get a computer science degree, which ended up, I did not get my bachelor's, but, you know, here's hoping that things turn out a bit better in the future. Fuck, I keep losing my train of thought. This game just brings back so many memories, man. I just keep thinking about, like, you know, my childhood and how I got started with really gaming. And, you know, it's just... There's so much history to this game now. It came out in, like, 1995 or 1994 or something like that. I was 3 or 4 years old when this came out. And, you know, it's amazing how games have become more accessible over the years. You know, even... fuck. I always forget to pull up the fucking passwords thing before I start the game. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, crap. I can't get to it because DOSBox won't release my mouse. Oh, fuck. I'm in trouble now. Hang on. Ah, okay. Emergency tactic employed. Alright, orc strength. I need to know orc strength. But yeah, it's incredible how, like, a lot of these older games, they've become much harder for people to run. You know, you need to know a thing or two about DOSBox to run Arena. And especially to run Daggerfall. Oh my god. And... you know, it's remarkable that, like, we've worked so hard to bring some of these games back from the fold, and it hasn't always succeeded, but with Arena, it seems to have worked relatively well. I don't know what's going on with Daggerfall. Like, it's never lagged before, but like I said before, as soon as I started recording, all of a sudden it's having all these problems, and I just got frustrated. Whereas Arena seems to work alright, I guess because it's not really a 3D game. Alright, anyway, we emerged on a holiday, so let me just read this flavor text. No other holiday divides the people of Leynalton like the third of Hearthfire. A few of the oldest, more superstitious men and women do not speak all day long for fear that the evil spirits of the dead will enter their bodies. Most citizens enjoy the holiday, calling it Tales and Talos, but even the most light-hearted avoid the dark streets of Leynalton, for everyone knows the dead do walk tonight. Only the Mages Guild completely thrives on this day. In celebration of the oldest magical science, necromancy, all magical items are half price today. Alright. Oh, and we leveled up! Hooray! Alright, Rodney, you really need to get smarter. There we go, 60 intelligence and only 3 levels. That's better than some of my Daggerfall characters, to be perfectly honest. Alright. I've been recording for about half an hour now. And, I think this is as good a time as any to take a little break. So I will see you guys later. If you like this video, leave a like, and just share it with your friends. If you didn't like it, share it with your enemies. But either way, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!